Hey, what's up, y'all? This is your girl, Misha Mish. I am super excited to be with you, to be here with you today on this Mindset Monday series called What Are You Feeding? This week, really, what a coinky dink. It's super who are engaged in any eternal partnership, okay, long term. We're talking more so not just a partnership, but a covenant. When you engage in this type of war, when you engage, it really puts you in your place. It puts you into a place of solitude. It puts you into a place of knowing yourself. Because how many of you know that when you have to be in such a gruesome, not gruesome, but a relationship that you have to continue every day working on, there are rules of engagement. And so how how do you manage that? And so it's going to be about what you're feeding it. And so as you know, and all of these what are you feeding series, we dig into every area of life. So we dug into the mental capacity, the we've done, oh my goodness, so many more. So we talked about the brain, we talked about your physical body, we've talked about your emotions. So what are you feeling? So this is the area of life that not everyone has, of course, but it's an important area if you do have it, that you maintain its structure. So I say, well, what are you feeding your your marriage? Because it needs to be fed to grow. It's like a plant. And so for you green thumbers, wait, is that a word? For those of you with a green thumb, you know that as you water the plant, give it the sunlight it needs, that just won't be enough. You have to love on that plant, like talk to it. You got to hug it, whatever the case. Give it some love. And that is that extra that you're feeding that really makes the plant sustainable, live a longer life, have a longer lifespan. In the same way, just because you're married doesn't mean, oh, I have these specific manly duties, or I have these types of duties. I have these types of duties that only the woman does these duties and then the man does these. But when you're just talking about works, like, oh, well, I've done what I'm supposed to do, I guarantee you're still probably not growing, because it's going to be more than just about sex. It's going to be about actually getting to know your spouse, getting to know your husband or wife. And for you to even have interest in that, that's going to come from a place of love in order for that interest to even be there. Because you really only put time, money, energy, and effort into the things that you actually love. I mean, think about outside of marriage, the things that you love, whether it's things that you love to do or other people that you love to do things for. But your spouse should be the main, okay? Is the main, where you guys are setting yourselves up for success. You're setting each other up for success. So, in the same way that you have to water, feed, and love on that plant, you have to do the same thing for this structure of this covenant that we call marriage. And so, it's so crazy because some people are like, well, I don't know. They just think that, okay, you need to go and have fun, do date nights. That is very important. Absolutely. But just like you have your personal development or professional development, you also got to have that marriage development. So where does that marriage development come from? Maybe it's a podcast on marriage that you both listen to. Maybe there's a conference that happens every year or a retreat that happens every year that you guys both go to. Because just knowing that, um, just knowing that, we get to a point of where it gets busy. I mean, I have friends who've been married now 6 months. Life gets busy because you are trying to set yourself up. You are trying to buy a house or you're ready to start a larger family. So you're really just trying to figure out, okay, how do we juggle? But the fun is going to be in the journey, not the destination. The fun is going to be in, okay, you know, how you communicate through each other to each other throughout the day, or how you, I don't know, help each other feel better after a long, hard day. Like slowing down and just learning each other. So after you learn each other, I mean, that might take a decade. So after you know each other, what else is there? Well, how do you move forward? Well, you've got to set yourself up for success. You have to set your marriage up for success by feeding it the positive things. So with me being a believer, we got to feed each other the word. We have to feed our marriage scripture even when it's times are hard and difficult. And you have to make hard choices. Well, that's what I'm going to be feeding my marriage is that. What are you actually feeding it? Um, I know I'm just talking about like the positive setup of, okay, this is what you should be doing. But let me dive into what shouldn't be happening. I mean, I feel like I'm grown enough and well versed enough to know what should not be happening in a marriage, in a partnership, in this structure that we call a covenant that's supposed to be eternal, that's supposed to live on forever. Excuse me, it's supposed to live on forever. So I'm sorry that they keep interrupting. Abrielle and Blue. You see, I'm on a live. I need you quiet. I told you that every time. So, okay, back to what we were talking about. Mindset Monday. What do you feed in your marriage? You could also be feeding your marriage. You could also be feeding your marriage bad stuff. So, I just got to give it to you straight. I have to give it to you straight. You could possibly be feeding your marriage like words that are hurtful, thoughts that are hurtful, deceit. You could be feeding your marriage these things that don't build it up. You know how you build up your spouse? You could be tearing your marriage down the same way you tear down your spouse. You have to think about what it is that you're giving. What are you giving? Not just what are you taking away from your marriage, but what are you giving? If you don't have anything to give, you're actually taking more away than you would ever be giving. And that's what you're feeding. You're feeding lack. You're feeding selfishness. You're feeding, these are things that you don't want to feed your marriage. But if this is what you're feeding, you have to know this and see this. Abuse, any type of abuse, mental, emotional, you can name it. Abuse is abuse. Okay? When you're feeding your marriage abuse, well, that makes your eternal covenant null and void. It no longer is, it is no longer intact. And that is why, you know, that is why marriages, if this is involved, marriages dissolve because of this. Now, in any type of relationship, no abuse should be happening. But abuse happens on a daily basis with relationships. And so when you're thinking about an eternal covenant like marriage, it's like you should, your main focus, because this is your family structure we're talking about too, whether you have kids or not, still a family structure. You are feeding your marriage constantly. So you have to be aware of what it is you're feeding and be acknowledging that, hey, I need to be feeding it this positivity, this positive stuff. We need to be on the up and up, or else we're going on the down and down, or else you will begin to see adultery, cheating. What else could you be seeing? Abuse. What else could you be seeing? Deceit. What else could you be seeing? And it's not something just to ignore. Like, oh, well, I'm going to just ignore that this is happening. You can't ignore it because that's also a bad thing. You don't want to ignore things that you see happening in your marriage, because now you're feeding it negative things, because ignorance is negative, and you're on the down instead of on the up and up. But of course, it takes two. So even if you're one where you're like, well, we're working on our marriage, it takes two to get there, to get to that destination. How you gonna get there by yourself? It's a marriage. How you gonna get to the destination by yourself? If you got to the destination and now you're single, well, you see what happened. Somebody went left. And so yeah. I don't want to take up all of your time, but I do want to let you know, and I wanted you to think about on this Mindset Monday what it is that you're feeding in this What Are You Feeding series. This one was about marriage, and it's just highly important. Oh, I was bringing up what a coinky dink that on this day was the whole incident with Chris Rock and Will Smith. And a lot of people summons it to, oh, well, this has a lot to do with his marriage. Okay. You can think that. That is okay for you to think. Obviously, what they were feeding their marriage was nothing good. it was nothing good. And so with that, it's just like, well, you see the result when you're in the spotlight. Number one, you're already in the spotlight. But when you feed your marriage things that it shouldn't be fed, nothing nutritional, you're not getting to know each other better in different ways, beginning to know what your new likes and dislikes are. It's like, well, what can you expect? It's definitely hard to hear the opinions of people about your marriage, because it's like, oh, so this is something that I commit to. I'm committed to this covenant. I'm committed to this structure. I'm committed to this person most of all. Because there was a reason why you got married, right? But at whatever point that it was falling, because it was up here, and at some point it started falling. And when it's down here and it's not doing good, or maybe you're trying to work on it, but then you have other people talking about, hearsay, talking about you and your marriage. And it's like, what? You begin to feel some type of way. And so that's why, on the one hand, I could feel where he was coming from, Will Smith. I could feel where he was coming from. And I, it was like, I feel you, bro. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. Now, if I put myself in his shoes, it won't intelligence coach. Grown and had this inner work done already. So he did not exercise emotional intelligence in that moment. Now, had this been, a few years ago, before I learned that I had no emotional intelligence, I would have probably, been the one to be like, oh, you can catch me outside. I'm not just going to be passive aggressive. Or I would do both. Like, oh, this is for the one time. And guess what? We're going to do it again. Like that. What type of attitude is that, though? Like, what type of attitude is it for you to be the case? Like, it would have just went one of two ways. If I was in his shoes, I just, I would have not been passive aggressive. I would have been fully aggressive, whether on stage or off stage, preferably off stage, just because it's like, why would you do that in this setting? I wouldn't personally do it in that setting. It would have been in an outside setting, and I would have finished what I started. However, now that I'm at this point where I have grasped the concept of self management, no, I have learned to deal with things as they come up, as they first arise, and not hang on to something until a little bit later, where now it's like, boom, oh no, I can't take anymore. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people, just hang on to things that hurt them, and they don't deal with it right then and there as it arises. deal with the problem when it first comes about. And it's like, that's his skill set, you know? And a lot of people don't know that or they don't learn it. And so they don't do anything about it. But as you learn it, when you know better, you do better. And so in this time around, I actually applaud Chris Rock for his composure. He actually exercised self-management a lot greater than Will Smith did. Now, if I want to stand beside Will Smith like his son, like that's how we do, then you could actually see where my level of emotional intelligence is in the area of skill management. Because that's how we do, which is to be expected. So if that's how we do, then you should know what to expect, which is a low level of emotional intelligence in the area of self-management. So that's all. That's all. That's all I got. That's all I got. What are you feeding your marriage? 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 Let me know in the comments below, and I guess I will see you all next time. Ciao.